What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Burgundy Boss back here with another episode of the Burgundy Boss podcast. And I have back with me Section 330 once again, and we're here to talk about the Giants game.
Oh, that was fun to see live. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, live and in person, right in your face. Right on. So we'll hop right into this thing. So in this one, we talked about some players that we wanted to keep an eye out for, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you had Devontae Booker, who had 8 carries for 14 yards.
Which was disappointing. I was looking at the rushing numbers. Jake Fromm was our leading rusher.
And defensively, you had Julian Love, who had 1 tackle.
And was pretty much non-existent in the secondary all game long. And I was watching him, and it's just like either he was getting burned or he was just like not flying around the ball. So it was it was disappointing to watch. And, watching Julian Love, he's kind of like the underrated guy in the secondary, but it's just like, where have you gone?
Yes. Right. And if it makes you feel better, my picks weren't much better. Offensively, I chose DeAndre Carter. Carter had 1 catch for 11 yards. And he's kind of been he's here, he's not. I mean, he's only got like 3 touchdowns on the year. He's our 4th leading receiver, but he's only got like 200 yards. If that tells you anything. Yeah. If that tells you anything about our receiving core. It's like, this is our yearly receiving core, right? It's Terry McLaurin. It's a giant cliff.
Oh, wow.
It's J.D. McKissick.
Yeah, what happened to J.D.?
He got hurt.
Oh.
He got hurt in the Dallas game. And it was the game before the Dallas game. He took that big hit over the middle where he had to be carted off. Mm-hmm. And it looked a lot scarier than it ended up being. It ended up being just a concussion, but they ended up sitting him for the rest of the year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, but and my defensive guy was Cam Curl. He ended up with 2 tackles. I mean, Cam kind of did his job, I guess. Kyle Rudolph didn't have a crazy day.
It does. It's just like, every Giants, like, they were passing the ball more than they did the week before. But Jake Fromm was no better. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. He was overthrowing wide open receivers if they weren't alligator arming them like Kenny Golladay did.
Yeah.
It's, the effort really, except for that one drive where they had a touchdown, when they had that old touchdown, which surprised the hell out of me, because I thought they were going to get shut out. Other than that, it was just like the passing game was non-existent. The running game was non-existent. Saquon Barkley only had 30 yards. Like I said, Kenny Golladay just basically just mailing it in. It was just a very disappointing effort to watch.
Yeah, it was, and we'll talk about some of that other stuff later too. Some of the stuff that you kind of mentioned a little bit, and some of the stuff from the game. But do you remember what your prediction was?
27-9.
Yep. And you weren't that far off.
I was close.
Yeah. I was close too. I seen mine. I was like, oh man. I had to go back and double check it. Mine was 20-10.
I'm like, you're giving us a touchdown? I'm like,
yeah.
Oh wow, that's
yeah.
You're giving us a lot more offense than we usually put up. I mean, 10 points is just asking a lot. 10 points is like averaging 30 for us.
Yeah.
But it's just this whole entire offense is just putrid, and they were even more putrid without Jones. They were putrid before him. They're just, in the words of MF Doom, Brita water filter juice
Yeah,
without him.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I was actually pretty surprised to see how close we were, in our predictions. And so with that being said, my first note I have wrote down is Kenny Galladay makes an appearance. I was like, oh, we have a Kenny Galladay sighting. That's okay. We have those too. We have De'Ami Brown sightings on our side.
Oh wow.
Yeah. There was a lot of fans that, they hyped De'Ami Brown because we had 2 third-round picks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we got one from the Trent Williams trade. And the
Oh
last
wow.
couple of years we've had our third-round picks are one of the only picks we have that hit. You go back 2 years, not 2 years, it's more than 2 years, but you go back a few years, you got Terry McLaurin. You go back to last year, you've got Antonio Gibson, who was a third rounder. And so a lot of fans were like, hey, we got 2 third-round picks. Like, this is basically a guaranteed jackpot. And we ended up with Benjamin St. Juste, who looks good at times, but the injuries, like I
Inconsistent.
said, yeah, the injuries kind of scare me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The multiple concussions we talked about.
Oh yeah.
Um, and then so our other third-round pick was De'Ami Brown, and a lot of fans, myself included, actually thought that De'Ami Brown, could pretty much step in and be wide receiver too. I thought it was kind of ironic. I did a lot of the pre-draft stuff for him, and the pro comp I kept seeing for him was Terry McLaurin, and I was like, that's kind of odd. I don't really see that, but if that's kind of cool to see that, and him to get drafted to Washington. So, but I mean, I never saw that with him. I think that's a little bit of a stretch, but I mean, so when we had those guys, and he pops up every now and again, and he'll make, like, a couple weeks ago against that second game against the Eagles, he had like a 50-yard bomb that he went up and caught over top of Slay. It was over Slay. He went up and climbed the ladder, came down with it, and a lot of fans was like, "Man, was that Terry?" And had to do a double take. No, that was De'Ami. Oh my goodness! So, I
Yeah, it's we have those. He's like another basically just like another Sterling Shepard here. Just he has to stay. He's When he's on the field, he's great. You know what I mean? But he's either non-existent or he's injured. But when he's on, he's on.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there was a play like earlier in the season against Denver. I think the first touchdown of the year, when uh he had a screen. I think it was on a screen pass, or it might have been on the flat. And Shepard took it, broke a couple ankles and went in for a touchdown. You see flashes of it.
Man,
But
I tell you what, I love Sterling Shepard coming out of college. I wanted him in burgundy and gold so bad when he was coming out,
yeah,
and then to now see him, kind of what he's become, and I'm like, kind of glad we missed that bullet.
yeah, you guys dodged a major bullet with Sterling Shepard.
Well, normally when you get those players that have the NFL pedigree, and they're second generation or third generation players, they're can't miss guys. I mean, it's all over the place in last year's draft. You got Surtain, you've got J.C. Horn. I mean,
J.C. Horn, I
Asante
forget the.
Samuel.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, and I think every single one of them hit, and so did So I thought he's can't miss guy.
Even though I thought J.C. Horn was injured, wasn't he injured?
He is. He got hurt early in the season.
Mm.
I want to say he ruptured his Achilles.
Oof.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep. All right. So the next part, I'm kind of gonna live vicariously through you. Possibly the worst quarterback play I've ever seen out of a quarterback.
Oh yes.
I mean, I thought we had it bad a couple years ago when we were going through the Josh Johnsons and the Mark Sanchez's but man, this
Mark
was
Sanchez.
man, this was I think this might have been worse than that. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's a lot worse. It is a lot worse. I mean, when Mike Glennon can't throw it more than 10 yards, when everyone got hyped off of Jake Fromm throwing it against a prevent Dallas defense during garbage time, and then he goes into Philly and basically lays an egg and gets benched for Mike Glennon, and then you have that stink performance against the Bears, and then last week, I mean, Fromm did play better than Glennon, but that bar wasn't set too high. So, that's what you get. You get, when you go cheap on a backup, this is what you get. You know what I mean? We were better off keeping Colt McCoy, and McCoy, at least knows how to win, i.e., when he replaced Kyler Murray over in with the Cardinals when
Yeah,
Kyler
exactly.
Murray got hurt.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, he came in and he won a couple of games this year. And that's really what you want in your backup quarterback, a guy who can step up and he can win a couple games if you're in a pinch and you need a guy for a couple games.
Exactly. And he went into, like, last year, he went into Seattle. Nobody was expecting us to win. Seattle was a playoff contender, and we went in there and we shot the crap out of them. I mean, yeah, granted, the Sunday night Cleveland game, he didn't play that well, but you know what I mean? You see that. You see the guy could win. You bring in Mike Glennon, who hasn't won anything in the league, hasn't even hasn't even shown any consistency at all, and that's what you get. And you have to rely on your third string quarterback, an undrafted Jake Fromm, who some people thought, oh, this is a steal, the best quarterback in the draft. Before the draft, I think he was drafted last year, and he didn't go drafted, and you see why he didn't go draft. He wasn't drafted.
Yeah, it's funny because Georgia took him. Georgia took him over Justin Fields.
Yep.
And, you see how that paid off.
Exactly. I
But
have more faith in Stetson Bennett coming in and playing quarterback for the Giants than Jake Fromm.
ooh, that was rough last night.
Oh yeah.
Thank goodness. Hey, thank goodness for that Georgia defense, I guess.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's all that game was about.
That Georgia defense showed out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I got Washington fans all over my timeline this morning, and all I see is we got to get Nakobe Dean. We got to get Nakobe Dean. He's Micah Parsons. I'm like, stop it right now.
No.
Don't even. They're two different players. What are you guys doing?
Exactly. Like it's people have recency bias when it comes to these players.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, player has one good game. Maybe, some of them don't even watch college and see, oh, we got to have this guy. Like,
yep.
You got to see the tape on him first. You got to see where he's projected to go.
Yeah. All right. So the next part we're going to talk about is the two single most important plays in this entire game.
I know where you're going with this one.
You have to.
Where you're going. I will tell you what was the reaction. I was with my teenage daughter and my teenage nephew, and I tried to not curse in front of them, and they heard me say every four-letter word in the English dictionary at Joe Judge for calling those two quarterback sneak. And what drove me crazy was, oh, we're trying to create room for our punter. You're giving up, dude. And that's why you're on the unemployment line as of 4:30 this afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah. I was trying to keep a straight face the whole time too. Because I knew you would know as soon as I said that. I was like, dang it. I had to let it go. All right. So now that we got that out of the way, whew,
It's comical, man. It
I
is
mean,
comical, dude.
what was comical to me was Bobby McCain having a pick six in an NFL football game. That was
Bobby McCain
comical.
showed out. He
Let me
showed out.
let me just tell you, Bobby McCain is not that good. He is not that guy.
No, I know that, but he showed out. I mean, it was against Jake Fromm. I mean,
Yeah,
given that, but
right.
you know what I mean? Like he had a hell of a game.
Two
Two
picks.
picks. He had one at the end of the game, garbage time. But that pick six, you felt the air. I mean, I was online getting, the kids like pretzels and hot chocolate, which the fine folks over at MetLife Stadium messed up. They gave me coffee instead of hot chocolate.
That's
But
wonderful.
I mean, this doesn't taste like hot chocolate. Why is it so bitter? But anyway, as I'm on the line, I'm watching it from the screen, and as soon as that pick six happened, you felt the air come out of MetLife Stadium, and you saw people head for the exits. Like this game's over.
Right, because to that point, it was like a 7 point game, wasn't it?
It was a 6-0 lead.
Was it? Was it still 6-0 at that point?
It was six
Yeah,
nothing. They had the
yeah,
pick six. They
and that.
inexplicably went for two.
Yeah,
I could see why Riverboat went for it, to turn it into a 2 touchdown lead, but still,
I mean, yeah. Why not? I mean, Joe Judge is mailing it in. We might as well too.
exactly. I mean, but then again, Riverboat doesn't know the word quit
No.
it's not in his dictionary. He can go 0-16 or 0-17, and you know what I mean. He'll still have his team play hard. He'll still coach like if he's coaching the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Is there anything from the post game presser you want to talk about?
I didn't really check out the post game presser,
No.
honestly. I turned on the Jet game on the ride home from the game. I turned on the Jet game, and I didn't want to listen to any of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was just going to be the same old nonsense from Joe Judge. Oh, well, we played hard. The culture. We have to look at the tape. Blah 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 blah. It was going to be the same old nonsense. So I just put on the Jet game, Jets Bills.
So the next part I want to talk about is them kind of announcing that they've let him go, and they let go of the GM earlier in the week, and now they've decided to let go of Joe Judge. I was watching some New York area content earlier today, and they were talking about it was Boomer and Geo is who was talking about it. I don't know if you watch or listen to them. It's Boomer Esiason's show though that he does.
Yeah, it's on WFAN in the morning.
Yeah. So they were on there and they were talking about how Gio was talking about how he's going to be mad either way, either decision that the Giants make. If they decide to keep Joe Judge, it's a horrible move. But if they let him go now, well, that's a bad move too because now they're late on the head coaching search. And I thought that was kind of funny.
I don't really pay attention to what Gio says because, to me, he's just a big loudmouth like Craig Carton was. They just talk just to talk. You know what I mean? But I did listen to Chris Canty earlier, and he was saying that it has to be done. It had, you know what I mean? It should have been done yesterday.
Yeah.
It should be done today. It should have been done. It should be done today. You shouldn't wait for a new GM to decide the fate of them. And thank God they didn't.
Yeah.
Because he is not an NFL. I'm sorry, he's not an NFL head coach. And some of the decision making that he's made over the last year, over this season was just very, very head scratching.
Yeah, there was all the talk yesterday was about Man, the Dolphins got rid of Brian Flores and Joe Judge still has a job. That's a thing.
Mhm.
Like this should not be happening right now. Like, and
It
the other thing too is I don't know if you've heard this or not, but I heard some rumors today that the guy they like for the job is Don Wink Martindale from the Ravens defense.
I like with Warrendale. I like him, but I have three preferred candidates. Even though if I wouldn't be mad if Wink Martindale is our head coach. You have Dable, the coordinator for the Bills,
Mm-hmm.
offensive coordinator. He's very heavy on analytics, and he's very good. He was very good with Josh Allen. He could provide that same spark for Daniel Jones if Daniel Jones is indeed with the Giants next year. If they don't do something like trade that one of those first round picks for Russell Wilson. My second one would be Brian Flores, but I think he's going to go to the Bears.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's going to take over that situation. He's going to work with Fields, and I think that will head the Bears in the right direction. So they have their defense is stout. You know what I mean? And you're working with a young quarterback that has a upside, a ton of potential. And my third one, as we discussed last week, Eric Bieniemy.
Yeah. And if you don't know any of the head coaching candidates that we talked about today, check out the YouTube channel. I posted a video earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So run over there. I talked about all the vacancies, all the possible candidates, and I even talked about the teams that need a GM.
What about
Anyways,
Kellen Moore? Nobody's talking about him.
who?
Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator for the Cowboys.
I talked about him. No,
Huh.
I know. I seen he has interviews scheduled. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
With Denver and Miami's got one and Jacksonville's got one. Those are the three places I've seen that he has interviews.
I think the two most ideal places for head coach right now, if you're looking to build and you're looking to really, really just like build from scratch and just take a team, from the bottom all the way to the top, is Jacksonville and Chicago. Because of the quarterbacks.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got a young quarterback you can build up right, and the rest of the team you can just build it however you want.
Oh
I
yes,
I, I agree with you 100%.
Chicago already has the defense. Jacksonville, they need to provide Trevor Lawrence with more weapons. They need to add more, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I know it's not Saxonville anymore, but if you can build around Trevor Lawrence, the Jaguars will be good in 2 years. And it's the same situation with the Bears. I think with the right coach and if you give Justin Fields the right weapons, the Bears will be back in the playoffs. Maybe, depending on what happens with Aaron Rodgers, maybe winning the North.
The one I don't want, or the one I wouldn't want to go to, is Minnesota.
Oh no.
You've got a few pieces sprinkled on offense, a few pieces sprinkled on defense, and holes everywhere.
Oh yes, everywhere.
You got the Kirk Cousins problem.
I
We
don't know
said
if
that while he was here. We said he will get you 8-8, 9-8, 8-9 every single year. Never bad enough for a high pick to get blue chip prospects, and never good enough to push you over the top.
like stuck in mediocrity.
Yep.
Stuck in limbo.
Yep. That's where we've been for 25 years.
And I'm sure you guys have been through it, and I'm sure Vikings fans are just going nuts. One game, he'll throw for 3 touchdowns, he'll throw for 350 yards, he'll have like a 75% completion percentage, and then the next game, it's a 50% completion percentage. He'll throw 2 picks, no touchdowns, 150 yards, and it's just like, dude, what the hell?
His last game, he just threw for 250 and 3 touchdowns, and they lost. And it's like, he is the ultimate stat patter.
Yep.
I mean, I have friends that live a group of friends that they live up in the Dakotas, and so they're Viking fans. And they got a hold of me as soon as they signed Kirk. Like, hey, we're gonna win a Super Bowl. We've needed a quarterback for so long. Like, he's our guy. I said, you might want to pump the brakes. I'm not saying. I'm just saying he's not that guy. He'll be enough for us. Okay, let's talk in 5 years. And here
Exactly.
we are. Here we are.
He's not that guy, pal. He's not that guy.
No.
You know what I mean? The Vikings are just better off just going in another direction in the quarterback position. And you know what? I think Kirk Cousins is also, he's the type of guy that, from what I've seen, will throw receivers and throw tight ends and his entire offense under the bus when things are not going his way.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was surprised. They had a game a couple weeks ago where Kirk he had COVID. I think it was a couple weeks ago. He had COVID, and he had to miss out, and they were starting Sean Mannion.
Mm-hmm.
And all I could think was, why don't you put your 3rd-round pick out there and see if he's got what it takes? They just drafted Kellen Mond out of Texas A&M last year in the 3rd round, right after Davis Mills, who went to the Texans. I don't
That's Mike
understand it.
Zimmer for you. That's why Mike Zimmer is on the unemployment line now.
Yep, he is.
I mean, that's stubbornness.
Yep.
But that's like you're right. That's the least as I wouldn't want that situation.
You don't. Like, that's where we've been. Like, that's not so much Shanahan, but Gruden. That's all Gruden was. Like, it's I don't know if it was more Gruden or more Kirk Cousins, or if it was just who they both are. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, every year, 7-9, 8-8, 9-7, 7-9, 8-8, 9-7, every year. You're gonna pick 15 to 19 every single year. Like,
Exactly.
drives me insane. And now,
But
you
you know
know,
what? As a Giants fan, I would kill for 7-9 and 8-8 right now. It beats the hell out of 4-13 and 6-10 and 3-14. It just beats. I would kill for 7-9 and 8-8. We'll be trending in the right direction.
yeah, yeah, that's the problem though. When you get like that, you're stuck in mediocrity. You're
Oh
not
yeah.
going in a direction. And we're kind of stuck in another Kirk Cousins type situation. I don't know if you know about this, but Brandon Sheriff and the front office and Brandon Sheriff have already kind of taken jabs a little bit at each other.
Oh boy.
Before the season ended, I didn't really expect them to bring him back. I mean, he's on the franchise tag. It's his 2nd franchise tag. They're paying the guy like 18, 19 million to play guard. And he on his exit interview, he said, yeah, we've been talking and I want to be a Washington lifer, blah, blah, blah. And he said, I'm looking forward to staying here, my entire career. And then they had Ron Rivera and Martin Mayhew this morning. They did some interviews, and Martin Mayhew says, hey, I want the fans to know we offered Brandon Sheriff a 5-year deal to make him the highest paid guard in NFL history. Just putting that out there. And I was like, oof, that doesn't sound good. It sounds like there's a riff.
And you know what? Brendan Sheriff was somebody that I wanted, during that draft. When that was the year we drafted Flowers. And I had him on my draft board, I remember. And he ended up becoming that hog molly that we talk about around here, or David Gettleman at least talks about. And it's a shame. Like, you know what I mean? You're gonna have it's not only a Kirk Cousins situation, but more along the lines like a Trent Williams situation, where you got to pay this guy, you got to treat this guy right. You know what I mean? Like, he's that Joe Jacoby type guard, where where he's the nasty, you know, type guard. And you know what? You gotta lock a guy in like that.
I think the biggest thing for Washington fans and probably the Washington front office that gives them pause with Brandon Sheriff is he has a really hard time staying healthy.
That's true.
He averages like 10 games a year.
That is true too.
And I mean, it never fails. Something he's always in and out, in and out. And that's the
But
problem with paying him 20 million a year.
when he's in, he's
Yeah,
something special.
I agree.
And speaking of which, I'm very, very surprised at what you guys have done with Eric Flowers.
I mean, it works. He's a big nasty. Like I was surprised. I was like, whoa. And I was surprised we let him walk to Miami. I was like, Ron, you're not going to resign him? He's been one of our best offensive linemen. And nope, he let him walk. And then at the end of that season, he traded for him. I was like, okay, I forgive you, Ron.
Exactly. Like, when he needed a change of scenery, and and when he came back to Washington a second time, I admit I was just like unbiased, you know what I mean, judging by the way he played with the Giants. And he's a borderline Pro Bowler now. And if the Giants had kept him in his natural position at tackle, instead of shifting him to a guard, or, you know what I mean? And he would have been successful with the Giants. And I said that before. He's not going to protect. He's not good on the right side. He's a good left side. He's good on the left side.
And I used to wonder that same thing about Brandon Sheriff. When we drafted him in 2015, I said, you drafted this guy 5 overall, and you're going to play him at guard? Because they had him in training camp. They started him at left tackle to see if he could stay at left tackle. Next thing you know, he was at left guard and then right tackle. And they kept moving him around, and then he got to right guard, and he stopped moving. And I was like, so we're going to play our number 5 overall pick at guard? Yeah, that irritated me for a couple of years, but then I kind of got over it. I was like, well, he's an all-pro guard, so.
Exactly. He's, I think he's a little bit more versatile than Flowers. I think Flowers, you keep him on that right side. He's, I know I just said, that he's better on the right side than he is on the left side. You know what I mean? He's not good on the blind side of the quarterback. He is a right guard. That's what he is. He's not attack. And that was the mistake the Giants made by shifting him from right to left, right to left, right to left. It messed with his confidence. It didn't help that, myself included, and I'll admit this, that he was highly criticized by the fans, the media here, and he needed that change of scenery.
Yeah. I mean, maybe, some guys, it just works like that. Like they get the change of scenery and they're studs.
Oh, yes.
All right. So let's move on. So on my show, we do 4 weekly awards. Okay. This is where it gets funny.
Right.
So for the best offensive performance, I call that the John Riggins Award. And the best, yes. And then there's the best defensive performance. That's the Darryl Green Award. So go ahead and give out your awards, and then we'll come back here. And
first off, I want to say Darryl Green is the second best cornerback I've ever seen in my life. Number 1 being Dion. Number 2, it was always Darryl Green. But my John Riggins Award, and the offense stunk. I would give it to Darius Slayton for scoring the touchdown. But yeah, I'll give it to Darius Slayton. He was the only Giant that found the end zone.
By default,
basically.
Yeah.
I can't really think of anyone better to give it out to. I would give it to Andrew Thomas, but, we're talking about skill position players here.
You don't have to. I mean, it's an open award.
I'll give it to Andrew Thomas, but, I'll just Slayton. I'll just give it to Slayton. You know what the hell?
Okay.
He found the end zone. You know what I mean? The Giants don't find the end zone that often, so you got to take it while you can get it. My Darryl Green Award goes to Lorenzo Carter. What could be his last game as a New York Giant, and he stressed this after the game, talking about how he wants to stay, which I don't know why. You know, he's gonna get a nice chunk of change in the offseason. He had a decent season this year.
Yeah.
He had a sack. He had 10 tackles. So it goes to Lorenzo Carter.
Okay. My awards. Boy, I had to think about these a little bit today. I did. But I give my John Riggins Award this week to I thought about giving this to the two guys that they hit milestones today, but I decided not to do that because there was one guy that was just clearly better than the other. So my John Riggins Award this week is going to go to Antonio Gibson.
You know, Antonio Gibson, where was this? Because I had him on my fantasy team. Where was this all season? Where was this? Where was it during the Dallas game when you had only like 15 yards on 10 carries?
Yeah, I told everybody in the offseason, in OTAs, I said, if you're still doing your fantasy draft, do not take Antonio Gibson. He's got this same shin. He's got like a bone busted up in his shin or something. It's been shin splints, and it's been going on all season. And then he ended up getting that turf toe he had last year again. And it's like, don't do it. He might pop off a game or two, but it's not looking good for him. But I think he finished as like a top 10 back, didn't he?
I think so. I got to look at the numbers.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the numbers, but because after I got booted from the playoffs, I was like, I'm out. And
in fantasy, yeah, he is. He was according to ESPN, he was number 8.
Okay. Still solid. So I'm gonna give my Darryl Green Award to a fellow DB. I think you know who I'm gonna give it to. Mm-hmm. I don't like this guy. I really don't. But I'm gonna give him this award because he deserves it. I'm gonna give this award to Bobby McCain.
Hey, you know what?
I mean, that's the best I've seen Bobby McCain play all year long. But it was against Jake Fromm.
I mean, yeah, it was against Jake Fromm, and Jake Fromm will be in the USFL or the XFL, you know, whoever decides to pick him up. But, you know what I mean? You got to take it while you can get it.
Yeah, I guess. See, okay, so here's a little story about that you don't know, okay? So my dad is a Miami Dolphins fan, right? Huge Miami Dolphins fan. And as soon as they cut him, he was like, man, I'm so glad, he's off the team. Like, we need to play our depth, and we need to play our young guys. And Bob McCain, man, he keeps getting busted coverages, blah, blah. And so then I heard he was visiting Washington. And from that point on, Bobby McCain and I have a hate-love relationship. It has not went well for either one of us. I kind of jumped off the cliff after the Atlanta game. That was where it was like, no going back. Like, I don't want him back. Now he's kind of figured out his role, so I kind of want him back, but only for the right price because he's a free agent. So, but I don't expect him to break the bank or anything. I just don't want to pay him any more than like $3 or $4 million.
I think that's fair. You know what I mean? I think, if he commands any more than that, I think he's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, then again, you have a lot of teams desperate. For a lot of teams desperate, a lot of teams need defensive backs. But, I'm sure there'll be some, if it's not Washington, there'll be somebody that's going to overpay him.
Yeah.
Like we did a Dory Jackson.
I can see a rebuilding team throwing a bunch of money at him because they need a veteran, in their secondary or something. Yeah. So now we get to talk about the bad awards. Oh, these are the funny ones. Yeah, these are the funny ones. This is what's gonna make you laugh. Not the first one. The first one was a serious time. Now this is the funny time. Okay. So I give out 2 awards each week to the bad performances, whether we win or lose. I give out both sides. The bad offensive performance, it has been coined the Josh Doxson Award.
Oof.
Yes.
Oof.
And the defensive award, you might not even remember this guy. I remember him, of course, because he hurt my heart and soul. But the defensive award is the David Amerson Award.
I thought you were gonna go with Albert Hainsworth. I really thought you were gonna go with him.
No, I tried to keep it with guys that we drafted that were busts. Yeah, and he kind of was the first one that came to mind. Well, I was so excited that back when we drafted him was kind of when I first got into like scouting and like getting deep into the draft. So I scouted him hard, and he ended up leading college in interceptions. He had like 11 interceptions his junior year before he came out. But see, they played more of like a cover 3, like he was basically a safety. And he was even listed on all his draft profiles as a corner/safety. So I was hoping we were going to play him a free safety. Jay Gruden was not listening to me. Played him at corner, played him in man, played him in cover 2, cover 3, cover 4, everything. And he got toasted week in, week out. Yeah. So that's why that award is the David Amerson Award, because that one stuck with me.
Yeah, you took it back with Josh Doxson, and oof.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah. You know what T. Higgins is doing in Cincinnati? That's what Josh Doxson was supposed to be. Yeah.
So my New York Giant Josh Doxson Award, I'm going to give to, there's a lot of people that that is coming out. I'm just going to by default give it to Jake Fromm. Overthrowing guys, missing guys, that interceptions, turning the ball over. It was just atrocious. I mean, yeah, it's, like I said, it's better than it was better than Mike Glennon, but you know what? Then again, that bar hasn't been set too high, so it's going to go to Jake Fromm. And defensively, what was the award for defensive again?
The David Amerson Award.
My David Amerson Award is going to go to Bradbury.
James Bradbury.
Because Terry McLaurin made him look like David Amerson. Terry McLaurin toasted Bradbury.
If it makes you feel better, Terry toasts a lot of guys. Taylor just can't get him the ball.
No, I know that. And if he had a real quarterback, he'll be a top 5 receiver in this league. Maybe yes. Top 3.
I hate people that come at me and they say that DK is better. I hate it because I have to break down the argument, and I have to show them that they have similar stats, and he has Russell Wilson.
Exactly.
And Terry McLaurin has had 700 different quarterbacks.
Exactly.
All with noodle arms.
And Terry McLaurin still puts up numbers. You know what I mean? When he's on the field, he puts up numbers. DK Metcalf has Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, albeit, won't be on the Seahawks next year, so we'll see how he does.
Maybe not. I don't know. There's some rumble.
There's a lot of rumble.
There's a lot of rumble right now.
There's rumors he could be coming here. He could come to the Giants, but I don't want to overpay for him. I don't want to give up too much draft capital for a 34-year-old quarterback that probably has 2, maybe 3 good years left in him, and then what?
Yeah. All right, time for my awards, I guess. I'm going to shock you right now. You ready for this?
All right.
So my Josh Doxson award goes to a guy we talked about earlier, right? About how good this guy was. And so my Josh Doxson award goes to Brandon Sheriff. And here's
Ooh.
why. Okay. If you watch this game, first off, Brandon Sheriff might be the strongest dude on this team. Brandon Sheriff doesn't get bull rushed. Tell me why 3 or 4 different times in this game I saw Brandon Sheriff bull rushed straight into the lap of Taylor Heineke within seconds. And it just, I mean, I was like, this is our all-pro guard. This is the one we're paying $20 million a year to get bull rushed.
Yeah, he had a bad. Yeah, I saw him.
You saw it.
Lorenzo Carter once. I think it was Leonard Williams bull rushed him for a sack.
I think I saw Austin Johnson do it. Like all bad tape.
Yeah, look at the tape.
Oh man, I know. We get that same treatment though. We do. Ron will come out and they'll ask him questions. Ron, how come you went for it in fourth and 45? He was like, I'm gonna have to go look at the tape. You can't explain 4th and 45, Ron. So
hey, we just messed up. No, I gotta look at the tape. Why I made the decision. Well, I felt like, we had Tyler Heineke. I thought Heineke was, it was going to throw a bomb to McLaurin, and I thought wrong.
Thought very wrong.
Very wrong.
Okay, so defensively, this was the hard one for me to find, okay? But in this one, my David Amerson award, and this is probably going to shock you too, because this guy is the Brandon Sheriff of defense. But it's Matt Ioannidis.
Yeah, I haven't heard his name called all day.
And here's why. So on top of doing diddly squat in the game against a horrible offensive line, no offense.
I will be the first one to tell you.
I can't tell you how many times in this game I saw him jump off sides.
Oh yeah, that's right. Especially on that 4th down.
Yes, I'm like, what? You're really? They're not even going to snap the ball.
All you got to do is just stand there. That's it.
And
that's what you got to do.
And you're going to bite on that? Okay. Brandon Sheriff. Matt Ioannidis.
One person that I've heard his name called a few times, and we talked about him last week, Jamin Davis. He had 8 tackles, 3 solo. He had a couple tackles for a loss.
He had that big stop on 4th down.
Yep. A few times I heard his name called. And, and he played a solid game.
I can tell you why. You ready?
What's up?
Ron finally decided to start playing him in his proper position.
Good.
Me and every other Washington content creator has been saying all year long, get him out of the middle, rip that green dot off his helmet, and play him at will. He's a will linebacker. Let him run.
Exactly. And he has that speed. He has that speed to be a will. And you know what? Last week, and albeit it was against a crappy offensive line, but you know what? It was just like Barkley up the middle, gain of 2, brought down by Davis.
And the first thing Ron said in his post-game presser, the first question he was asked was what he thought of Jamin Davis's performance, blah, blah. Ron said, I have come to the realization that we played Jamin out of position all year. He's not a Mike. We're like, the heavens have rained down upon us. You have finally seen the truth, Ron. Like, where has this been all year long?
Because your fastest, your most athletic linebacker should be at the will.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be a Mike. The Mike is reserved for your smartest. Your smartest. You know what I mean? That's the quarterback of the defense is your middle linebacker or Mike.
Right. And the other mistake the other mistake we made this year was, okay, we're not going to play Davis at Mike. There was a couple of games early in the season they didn't do that. They tried to put Cole Holcomb at the Mike. Like, no, Cole Holcomb is also not a Mike. Cole Holcomb is a Sam. You have to know your linebackers. And, I'm a little disappointed because my head coach is a former NFL linebacker. My defensive coordinator is a former NFL linebacker. Why do we not understand these things?
Exactly. You know what I mean? He was an 85 Bear. He should know.
Yes.
He played under Buddy Ryan. He should
Mike
know.
Singletary.
Mike Singletary, Otis Wilson, you know, he had Gary Fensick behind him.
Yeah.
He had guys like Dave Duerson. Like,
you have to know these things, Ron.
Exactly. You have to know that your most athletic should be your Will. You have to know your smartest has to be your Mike. Your most your second best athlete has to be your Sam.
I would say your best tackler has to be your Sam.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, your best, open field tackler.
Yeah. And let me tell you, the one thing that I saw all season long that impressed me about Jamin Davis, this is just about Jamin Davis real quick. Because everybody says he's a bust. And we're at the end of the first season. Calm down a little bit. We're exactly at the end of this rookie season. I saw him cover Cole Beasley one-on-one out of the slot in the red zone, and he shut him down earlier in the season. Yeah. That was when I'm like, okay, this guy's a freak.
Linebacker covering wide receivers usually a recipe for disaster, but
yeah,
he shut down one of the best slot receivers in the NFL in Cole Beasley, or at least when healthy. You know what I mean? That should be indicative of what kind of athlete this guy is. And for next season, keep him in that position.
Yeah, exactly. All right, on to the next part. So we're going to go over your end of year stuff, but what was your prediction for the Giants at the beginning of the season compared to how they finished? Yeah, I'm ready.
You ready to laugh? I had them winning the division. In my delusional mind, after what happened last year, I had the Giants winning the division. I had them at like a 10-7 record. They were going to win the division, and I had Dallas at second, Washington at third, Philadelphia last, and Philadelphia competing for a top 5 pick.
I think we all did. I think we all thought that Philly was going to be a dumpster fire.
Mm-hmm.
And that it was going to be, different than how it turned out. I'll say that.
Oh, yeah. Nick Sirianni not inspiring much confidence in his opening presser. And, and the whole thing with Jalen Hurts and, letting go of Zach Ertz and, talking about trading, what's his name, Kelsey and all. It worked out beautifully, and the Eagles are in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Sure did. Well, I was a little more, I was slightly more reasonable. So I thought I had us finishing 9-8 because
which is fair.
I felt like we were going to take a step, but I didn't think it was going to be a huge step because unlike some of my fan base, I did not exactly believe in Taylor Heineke. I said, we're going to base, Super Bowl aspirations on a guy we've seen play 5 quarters.
Exactly. And it's just not only that, you guys, why did you sign Ryan Fitzpatrick?
Exactly. That's something that I don't think a lot of people see or, think about is Taylor was our backup. He was the planned backup, and you don't ride a backup for an entire season. And just like we were talking earlier about Colt McCoy, I personally feel like, you might laugh at me, but I personally feel like we have the best backup quarterback depth in the NFL.
Which is, it's fair.
As far as starting, that's a different argument. Okay, so we got our predictions out of the way. We know what the result is.
Mm-hmm.
Give me your offense and defensive MVPs for the season.
My offensive MVP, and that's like, oof. Ugh. Barkley, no. Daniel Jones, no. Definitely not Kenny Galladay.
I was just getting ready to say Galladay.
Oh yeah, he had an MVP performance. Alligator arming balls and not crossing the end zone at all.
One
Not
catch.
Kadarius Toney. Not Slayton dropping balls left and right. I would say Graham Gano, but that's special teams. Even though he's scored more points than probably the Giants' offense combined. Oof, my MVP is Andrew Thomas.
I was going to say, you've just about ruled out everybody.
Yep, by default. And you know what? And he has shown great improvement over his rookie season. Rookie season, he looked for the first half of it, he looked lost. He looked like he was trying to adjust to the speed of the NFL. Second half of it, very solid. This year, by far, leaps and bounds, the best offensive lineman that we have. He is, I've seen him pancake dudes. He basically ate Robert Quinn's lunch against the Bears. He's gonna, if he stays healthy, he'll be the guy at left tackle for years to come. My defensive MVP is Xavier McKinney. McKinney, he was injured for the most part of last year, had that big interception against the Cowboys in the last game of the year. This year, he has 5 interceptions. I felt like he should have been a Pro Bowler, even though we don't deserve any Pro Bowlers. He was the one guy that, should have represented the Giants. And as Xavier McKinney, very good on coverage, very good in the zone. And you know what? And with Julius Peppers on 1 foot out, I think that he will be the guy next year.
So is he more free safety or strong safety?
He's more of a free.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought. That's kind of what he was at Alabama too, right?
Yep. He's a free.
He was the guy that
he was that center fielder that, you know what I mean, that he's that guy that just flies around that backfield. He flies, around the secondary. And you know what? If you needed, he had a couple of big interceptions, the pick 6 against the Raiders. He was incredible in that Eagle game at MetLife.
Yeah. All right. You ready for my awards?
Yes.
Okay. So my offensive MVP, it's a co-award. I'm going to cheat a little bit.
All right.
Yeah. My offensive MVPs, I'm going to give it to Antonio Gibson and Terry McLaurin, and I have a reason. So, congratulations, Terry McLaurin, being the first Washington wide receiver to have back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons since 1994.
I was going to say, didn't Art Monk have like a bunch of 1,000-yard receiving yard?
Yeah, but I was actually kind of surprised. I was like, I had to go back and look because I was like, all those years that we had Djax and Pierre Garcon, they never had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons.
That's shocking.
They would have like 1,100, and then they would have like 850 or 9. And they would both be like that too, and they would offset. It was crazy like that. And then I was like, okay, well, I could kind of see that.
And then you guys had Lavernius Coles too. I'm surprised.
I was just getting ready to go into that era. The one that really shocked me was Santana Moss. I was like, Santana Moss never had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons?
Really?
Nope. Never back to back. So I was mind blown. And then Antonio Gibson. This is his first. No, he didn't have 1,000 last year. He came just short last year.
Hmm.
But he's the first 1,000-yard rusher since Alfred Morris 2012.
Oh,
Which
wow.
that was kind of surprising too. Yeah,
Holy crap.
yeah, almost a decade. It's been that bad.
Really?
Yeah.
And you guys
So
have had some talent on that offensive side of the ball.
yep. And it's also the first time since 2012 that we've had 1,000-yard rusher and 1,000-yard receiver.
In the same season.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And that
Almost
was the
10
year
years.
that, yeah, that was the year that RG3 balled out, and then
Yeah.
you guys won the division. And I'm not even gonna get into that playoff game. It's just depressing, bro.
I know. You're telling me. We
We got
basic.
robbed of probably one of the what could have been one of the best dual threat quarterbacks, since Michael Vick.
Do you know the first player drafted in that draft hall that we traded the Rams?
Aaron Donald.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
That's the one. Yeah, that burns.
Oof.
Yeah. Pretty much everybody else in that draft hall sucks. It's like Zach Stacy and Nick Westbrook, like just depth guys that aren't even in the league anymore.
Mhm.
But that first one hurts.
Oof. Generational talent on the defensive line.
Yeah. Yep. So, be that now you have an extra little bit of sorrow to think about.
I mean, don't feel bad. We passed up on Max Crosby for Darius Slayton.
Well, yes, but it's nothing like what Philly has done.
Yeah,
Passing up passing up on Terry McLaurin and DK Metcalf for JJ Arcega-Whiteside, or the year after when they drafted Jalen Reagor and passed up on Justin Jefferson.
Jalen Butterfingers Rager.
Yep, that's the one.
So they basically got rid of what's his name? The other receiver they drafted before him, Aguilar. They basically got rid of Nelson Aguilar to draft Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah, basically. Except Rager's a little smaller in size, but yeah, I get your point.
Basically both of them, hands of stone, alligator arms.
Yeah, can't catch.
Can't catch a cold. They jump naked into, Lake Ohio during a snowstorm.
Exactly. All right, so who is your most improved Giant?
My most improved Giant, I would say Lorenzo Carter has stepped it up.
Mm.
He's on a contract year, but Lorenzo Carter really has been an underrated Giant for me. On the defensive side of the ball, he has shown flashes of brilliance, this season, especially, the lack of pass rush that we had. He's been that one guy that's been able to, get to the quarterback. He's very good on coverage, especially, he's the only one that I feel like that can cover a tight end, has been Lorenzo Carter. So it's my most improved Giant, even though, there's a few others I could think of. Evan Ingram, even though he did make a Pro Bowl, which was a joke last year, this year he's been pretty good in handling the ball. And my other one, I think, is Dexter Lawrence. But other than that, no one else.
Yeah. It took me a minute to think of mine because we've got a lot of new pieces, a lot of guys that are kind of, they are what they are. Uh, but this one was pretty much the only one I could think of. And so my most improved player, he went from being a solid player to I think he's really becoming one of the better ones, at least one of the better ones we've seen in a while. And so my most improved player is Cole Holcomb. And
Mm.
that might surprise some people, but he went from being just like okay, he's a solid linebacker, you know, he's kind of learned from John Bostic a little bit and maybe he'll start putting it together to now this year he was basically the leader of that defense. I mean,
Mm.
3/4 of the year he wore the green dot.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, until they realized that, well, he can wear it and he can use it and he can order the defense, but athletically and physically, we really need him more at Sam. So that's my most improved guy. I mean, I was trying to think of some other names. Uh, everybody else. I mean, I almost went Antonio Gibson, but he was my offensive MVP. So, Terry's kind of Terry.
Yeah,
I mean,
Terry is, solid. Antonio Gibson is, he this year he really balled out, even though like he was disappointing in, a couple of big games like the Dallas game,
yeah,
but if you give Antonio Gibson like a solid like 25 carries, he could really, really get you, he could really produce, and he's shown that this year.
yeah. And the thing about Heineke, I am so glad you brought up Taylor Heineke. Thank you for doing that. Actually, I brought him up, but uh, he proved in this game, he proved why he cannot be a franchise quarterback. I mean, if I would have blinked, I would have thought that Jake Fromm was wearing burgundy and gold. It was that bad for me. Like every time he dropped back, it was inaccurate pass, low throw, too far in front of a guy, behind a guy. You know, prime example. Okay, that first drive, we go down, we're in the red zone. He has Cam Sims wide open. You have a
I
six
saw
five.
that. Yeah.
He's 6'5". Hit him in his chest. Nope. He's 6'5", so I'm gonna throw it, 10 foot and expect him to go get it. It's been a common theme for him all year. The game early in the season when Logan Thomas got hurt on that opening drive of that game, Logan Thomas climbs climbs the ladder and makes this miraculous one-handed catch in the back of the end zone, and he was wide open on that play. There was no reason for that ball to be that high. All he has to do is hit Logan Thomas in
I,
stride.
I noticed that about Heineke throughout this game. It was just like he was overthrowing guys, he was underthrowing guys, throwing it up like that first one to Cam Sims. You didn't have to just load it to him.
No.
He was open. All you had to do, throw a bullet. He catches it right at his chest. He catches it. That's 6. You know what I mean? And it was the same thing with Jake Fromm. It was the same thing. It was just like it was a contest of who could overthrow and underthrow their receivers the best.
Yeah, it was not good.
No.
One thing I want to talk about is kind of, well, we got one more thing. Okay, hold on. So before I hop in, I'm starting to get a little excited. The last thing that I want to talk about from the season was who was your biggest disappointment, and I have a feeling I already know where this is going.
Kenny Galladay. But you know what I
How did I
mean?
know?
I it's not his fault. You know what I mean? Being that the offensive system is not suited for him. It's you have no offensive line to get him the ball to get him the ball. The quarterback doesn't have time, no matter who's throwing him the ball. But from what I saw in that game on Sunday, he gave up. When you're behind the Washington, that one play, you're behind the Washington secondary. It was the only good ball that Jake Fromm thrown all game long, and you alligator arm it. Like, what the hell, man?
One thing about him that, he reminds me of Josh Doxson, not completely, but in this way, that I don't think he loves football. I think football is a job for him, and he's good at it. So he's going to make, a bunch of money at something that he's really good at that he doesn't mind doing. And that's how I think, he's the type of receiver where he's always open. He's going to go up and win 50-50 balls. The problem was Daniel Jones didn't want to throw him 50-50 balls. And, Jake Fromm definitely didn't want to throw him 50-50 balls.
It's a guy like that. You have to, you have to play to his strengths. You have to throw it to his strength. He's going to outmuscle, defensive backs. And the Giants did not utilize that. You know what I mean? And it doesn't help that between Jason Garrett, Freddie Kitchens, and Joe Judge, neither one of them could run an offense. You know what I mean? And it really affected him. And, and for that kind of money, you have to get him at least 10 targets a game, at least. I was looking at his targets for this year: 8 times, 5 times, 4 times, 6 times. Like, you gotta, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're paying this man $18 million just to target him 5 times? Come on.
Yeah, I keep seeing memes all over the place talking about, you caught more touchdowns this year than Kenny Golladay.
You staring at the screen.
Yeah.
If you're reading this, you've caught as many touchdowns as Kenny Golladay.
Yeah.
And that one thing that the Giants posted, how many touchdowns would Kenny Golladay have this year? Oof.
This did not age well.
Nope, it aged like spoiled milk.
And I just thought of something. So I forgot to mention, I wanted to tell you this earlier, but you were given some of your coaching suggestions and who you'd like to have. And we talked about Wink Martindale and, how he wouldn't be a bad hire. And I really think they need to go offense. When, you've got a solid defense, and I get like you want to play your strengths and your strengths, but at some point you got to bring somebody in who can address this offense and bring it from one of the worst units in the league to one of the best.
It's either going to be, if you're going to address the offense, it's either going to be Brian Dable or Eric Bieniemy. You know what I mean? Like I addressed before with Dable, he knows how to work with a mobile quarterback. With Josh Allen.
Yep.
Going from Josh Allen year 2 to Josh Allen, almost winning an MVP.
Right.
He knows, in that system he knows, and he could do the same thing with Daniel Jones. If Daniel Jones if they choose to retain Daniel Jones this year.
Yeah, I agree.
What about you? Who's your biggest disappointment for Washington?
Well, mine is a very similar player. I'm sure this is every Washington fan's disappointment for this year, but it's got to be Curtis Samuel. Wow. And it's not a disappointment in the natural sense that, he was the biggest guy that had a bad year. Like, on a much bigger scale, This is a guy that played for Ron before, that Ron drafted. Ron loves to bring in, his guys. He drafted him, and he missed 5 games in his first 4 NFL seasons.
Mm.
And then he comes in here, and actually last year he led the NFL in yards per touch. I don't know if you knew that or not, but led the NFL in yards per touch last year. And so for him to come in and play in 2 games and have, like 5 catches for 25 yards is beyond disappointing. I mean, this is a guy that was supposed to come in. Yeah, he was supposed to come in. He was supposed to take all the pressure off of Terry, and so Terry could get wide open. And B, he was, you were designing your offense around this guy because he was the gadget guy that you didn't really have. The guy that you could run these fake jets with, and like we talked about on the preview episode, all the little stuff that you want to do with him, whip him around and start him in the backfield. I mean, all different kind of stuff like that. And he did see 1 carry this year for 5 yards, but I mean, when
Not that, it's just that, he was supposed to be that number 2. He was supposed to be, like you said, that guy that's supposed to take pressure off of Terry McLaurin. Didn't do that this year. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I was going to ask, like, what happened with Curtis Samuel? What's going on? Like, is he hurt? Is he, you know what I mean? Is he not fit for that Washington offense? Is he not?
So so he hurt his groin in the summer. He elected not to have groin surgery. He had told everybody he was just going to rehab it, and he would be ready to go by training camp. Training camp got there. He was still sore. He kind of, they started him out on the injury report, and he was, solely working on the side field. He didn't participate in the preseason at all. And, that was kind of shocking for all of us because we're like, whoa, maybe this is much worse than we thought. He was out like the first 2 games, and we're like, okay, what's really going on with this? Week 3, he comes in, and I believe it was the Atlanta game. He came in, he looks spectacular. He comes in and they're like, we've got him on a snap count. Comes in for like 10 or 15 plays, and he ends up with like 3 catches for, 12 yards or something. And every one of them was for a first down in that game. Every catch was. And then next game rolls by. He's a little sore, we're going to watch it. Next thing you know, out. He's back. He's on IR now. And so he's got to sit at least 4 weeks. And now we're getting towards the end of the season. He tried to come back one more time, and that's where he had like his other 2 catches. And he re-injured it, this groin. He re-injured it in that game. And at that point, Ron was like, shut him down. Like, he didn't say that. He didn't say that he was going to shut him down for the year or anything. But he said, yeah, he re-aggravated it. He's week to week. We're going to have to watch him. And he never came back. So, I mean,
it's like a Darius Toney type situation where it's just that he hurt himself, and it's like you look at the injury report every week, and it's just like, oh well,
he's there.
He's limited in practice. He's hurt. Oh, he might play. He might not play, and then you find out on Friday that he's out.
He's the and Washington fans will understand this. He's the anti-Antonio Gibson. Every week you'll probably see Antonio Gibson on the injury report, but if he's limited, he's playing. Versus on the flip side, Kadarius Toney, he's probably not playing.
Oh yeah.
So, all right, so that's going to bring us to our next little section where we get to talk about the offseason a little bit. We've kind of dabbled in it a little bit, talking about GMs and coaches that could possibly be hired by the New York Football Giants.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're going to talk about, and I want one for offense and one for defense. A free agent acquisition that you could trade for or sign in free agency. And we're basing this off of everyone is going to hit free agency. Nobody gets franchise tagged.
Assuming nobody gets franchise tag, here's the one guy that I want on defense that would help out and will make an immediate impact. Chandler Jones.
Ooh,
He is due to be an unrestricted free agent. I think that's the one guy that I've kept my eye on that I wanted as a Giant. And I know this season hasn't been his best in Arizona, you know, but given that the limited cap space that he has, you know what I mean? And I know that he's 31. I know that, he's seen his better days, but if we can get Chandler Jones, veteran, he could be instant leader in that defense. On the offensive side of the ball, I mean, if they don't end up franchise tagging him, I would love Brandon Sheriff. Sheriff as as a guard, as that veteran to come in, work with Andrew Thomas. But, there's nobody really that comes to mind, you know what I mean, as far as like skill position, with the Giants, because it would be a mistake to sign another wide receiver for, $50 million when we have Kenny Golladay and Slayton. And I know that Shepard's on his way out. You know what I mean? But we also got to keep in mind that we have $3 million in cap space.
oh,
And we're going to have to like do some maneuvering here to at least get that to a respectable number. And that means making some cuts. That means if we got to restructure or cut Logan Ryan, if we got to restructure or cut Shepard, if we got to cut, if we got to do something with Bradbury, because he has 2 years left on his deal, from my understanding, we just got to do it.
I wanted to ask you about Chandler Jones a little bit. So age and injury doesn't concern you at all with him? I mean, you talked a little bit about age, but you don't have any injury concerns for him?
I do. I do have a little bit of injury concern for him, but when he's healthy, he could really carry a defense.
Okay. That's a good point. All right. For Washington. Now, before I tell you who I'd like to have, I will tell you Washington is fourth in the NFL in cap space. We're sitting on about $64.5 million. But, at this point, I really hope we don't sign Brandon Sheriff. I cannot fathom spending that kind of money long term on a guard. Granted, a very good guard, but the Chiefs, I was mind blown when they did it. With Tooney, I was like, whoa. But I mean, offensively, and take this for what you will, but I want one of the Arizona running backs because they're both set to be free agents. I believe I would prefer James Conner, but he's a touchdown machine. He would take a lot of weight off of Antonio Gibson. We wouldn't have to give it to him 25 times if we want him to be healthy.
That would be an interesting two-headed monster between him and Antonio Gibson if you get James Conner. You know what I mean? And, I like James Conner since he was in Pittsburgh. And you know what I mean? If you can get him, like you said, that would take the pressure off of Antonio Gibson. But is another guy that does have, injury history.
Yeah.
And he missed a few games this year. But when he is much, like Chandler Jones, when he's healthy, he is a guy that can really, really be solid.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I got into an argument on Twitter earlier today. A little Twitter spat over a comparison I made. I said, Green Bay is the number one seed. There's only one thing, or actually two, but I said one. One thing that Green Bay has that Washington doesn't, and that's a franchise quarterback. I mean, both have good defenses. Both have one elite receiver. The only thing that Green Bay has, I think, that Washington doesn't have is they have a really good two-headed monster at running back.
Mm.
I mean, if we could get a James Conner and somehow end up with a franchise quarterback, I don't know, maybe Green Bay-ish vibes.
Maybe, especially with out there they have man, I'm tired. I'm just drawing blanks here. They have damn it. I'm sorry. I'm just like I'm brain farting at
Are you talking about the running backs?
the running backs in Green Bay.
AJ Dillon,
AJ Dillon, yep,
Aaron Jones.
and Aaron Jones. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was brain
Oh, you're
farting.
good. You're good.
But as far as like, them two, like if you can mimic that Green Bay offense, you're just gonna need that quarterback.
Yeah, that's a big piece.
Yep. It's a
And
huge piece.
we've seen what they look like without him. It's not good.
No. At one game against Kansas City where Aaron Rodgers missed because of COVID, he did not look good at all. Not with Jordan Love under center.
And at some point, like Green Bay, I don't know if they're living in the past or what, but at some point we've got to see you've got to put Jordan Love out there to see if he is your future.
Exactly.
I mean, Kansas City, like, I don't know. It was a very bad game for him, but was it just a bad game or is he a bad NFL quarterback?
I think it was just a bad game. That Kansas City game was. It's not gonna be indicative of what the kid can do. I'm just gonna take it as a bad game. But being that now Aaron Rodgers is 1 foot out the door in Green Bay, if he is the future of the Packers, he has to play better.
Major red flags.
So he has to show that he's better than what he's shown against the Chiefs this year.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Okay. Did I do defense? No, I didn't do defense, did I?
I don't think you did.
Okay, so defensively, I'm gonna list two guys too for that one. Just to number one, if we can get him, which I'm fairly confident he's either gonna get tagged or re-signed, but if we can get him, I want Jesse Bates, the free safety from Cincinnati. Arguably the best free safety in football.
I like that.
I mean, it's like one of very few pieces on our defense that we don't have. I think William Jackson really started to figure it out in the second half of the year. I think Bobby McCain can be a really good depth piece that we have. I don't really we talked about this earlier, our love-hate relationship, but I really don't want him starting every down of every game. It's just he's up there in age. We saw early in the season, I don't know if it was him still figuring out the defense or what, but he blown coverage after blown coverage, and it seemed like as soon as we moved Landon down in the box, all of our deep coverage concerns went away, except for the end of that Giants game where we just decided to stop playing defense and gave Darius Slayton a free touchdown.
Oh my God. And then Darius Slayton just dropped it.
Yeah. And so he's my top guy. If we can't get him, I will settle for the Houston Texans' Justin Reed, who is also set to be a free agent. He seems, the last couple of years, he's kind of dipped a little bit in performance, but I mean, he still seems like a pretty good free safety, which we have not had in Washington since I don't know when.
There's another guy that, you know what I mean, that would fit for both our teams. Teron Armstead, tackle for New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
His injury history kind of scares me a little bit, but he's the type of guy that if you put him in the tackle position, he's basically a hog molly, as our former GM calls him.
Yeah, we just call them hogs.
Oh, that's what you guys,
Yeah, might be the new name. I don't know.
the new hogs. Hogs 2K22.
I will say he is not a good fit for Washington, and here's why. We have two bookend tackles now that I think are going to be here for at least the next 3 years. Well, at least the next two, probably three. So we just re-signed Charles Leno. We just signed him to a 3-year deal.
And
Like
that's
a-
the one guy that I wanted
like-
the Giants to get when the Bears caught him.
Yeah, So we just signed him to a 3-year extension. I think it was a good deal. Like it only averages like 7 or 8 million a year. I think I was looking up, and it puts him as like the 24th highest paid left tackle. So
Mhm.
I was pleased. It's like whoever's handling cap over there, you go.
Exactly. Very cap friendly deal.
And then our right tackle, we just drafted in the second round, Sam Cosmi out of Texas. I mean, he's been arguably our best rookie when healthy. Like because I mean, he filled Ron and company with enough confidence to cut Morgan Moses in the preseason. So it had to do something. I was shocked and awe when we did that. I was no way, because Morgan was one of those like, okay, he's going to be a lifer. University of Virginia guy to Washington. I mean, signed first contract done, signed a second contract done. Okay, let's finish this up with a third. Nope, cut, gone.
Gone.
Okay, Ron, all right, you're gonna do things your way. All right.
Now, here's the one guy that I think, and I'm just going to throw out a name. And how do you feel if they signed him? The Honey Badger, Teron Matthew.
Oh. I would say no. I wouldn't like that. Here's why. And if you don't know this about me already, so you know I live in the central time zone, right?
Mm-hmm.
I live in Kansas City.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Which makes this even more interesting that you brought him up. I don't like him because for Washington, he kind of plays that same role, that same like Cam Curl role, where he'll come down and we have like a big nickel package. If you listen to Ron, he talks about the Buffalo nickel all the time. That's what Cam Curl does. He'll come to the slot or he'll, rush the passer around the edge, or, different stuff. And that's kind of the same stuff that the Honey Badger does in Kansas City. I mean, you can't discount the type of player that the Honey Badger is, but for what he does and the money that you're going to have to pay him, that's why I would say no.
Interesting.
You would take him?
Honestly, no. You know what I mean?
Oh.
We're trying to build with Xavier McKinney. And I know earlier we were talking about late round steals, and I'm going to get into one person that would be a late round steal for the Giants, but I would say no. Yeah, he brings leadership, he brings energy, but you know what I mean? To me, he can't stay on the field. You know what I mean? And it's just like I if we can get him at the right price, yes, but I don't think we're gonna have the cap room for him.
Yeah.
for the
I
type
mean,
of money that he's demanding.
you got to think he's going to be demanding something around 20. I would think at least. I mean, I don't know, but his last pay day he got, I remember this because it was the same time we signed Landon Collins. It was that same free agency period, and they signed for the same amount, and they both signed for 15 and a half. And that was
Mm.
3 years ago. And we know how the cap works.
Oh yes,
So if, maybe not 20, but up there somewhere, I would say definitely 17, 18.
but I have somebody that late round that can match that, and you know what, that could be it could be a late round steal.
I wasn't watching this matchup real closely, but is Logan Ryan, is he a safety now?
He's been shifted all over the place, but yeah, but he's been using Patrick Graham's system as a safety.
Okay. I was just curious. All right. Well, are you ready to get into the draft stuff?
Oh yes.
Okay. Do you want to go first or you want me to go first?
You can go first.
Okay. So, my offensive guy, okay, I'll go ahead and spoil this a little bit. Both of my guys are from Alabama, but they're
Mm.
probably not who you would think. Um because these are late round steals, so we're thinking like rounds 4 to 7. Uh and my offensive guy is Alabama wide receiver John Mechie.
I like him. I like John
Yeah.
Mechie.
Yeah. Defensively, I know I'm going to butcher this. Defensively, that might give it away too.
I think I know where you're going here.
So, defensively, I'm going to go Alabama middle linebacker Henry 20202.
All close enough.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he would be an I looked at some mock drafts and he's been going at like, you know, fifth, sixth round,
Yeah.
fourth, fifth round. And I think if he's there, you got to take him. You know what I mean? Especially if you need a linebacker, he's that type of guy. He's that type of middle linebacker that is very smart. You know what I mean? Like he could have a huge impact. And watching him play, you know what I mean? Like he's been basically the heart and soul of that Alabama defense.
Right on. I know Ron has said all offseason that he plans that basically he's come out and basically said, which this is one of the things I dislike greatly about Ron, because sometimes he tells a little too much, but
Mm-hmm.
he's basically come out and said that his two biggest needs he's already recognized as middle linebacker on defense and quarterback on offense.
Mm.
And one of the reporters asked him today, he's like, Ron, would you guys be going after Deshaun Watson? And Ron very quickly hopped up. He was like, I can't discuss certain player names. We can't talk about players that are on other teams. And they kind of circled back around and asked him, well, Ron, if you had a player with character concerns, would that take him off your board? He said, no, not at all. And then he even he was on the radio this morning and they asked him, about big name quarterbacks, because kind of the spiel about Washington and why these big name quarterbacks, won't be here is because they don't want to come here and that we have nothing to offer. And Ron said, quite the contrary. We have, he started listing, Terry, Antonio. He talked about the line. He said Logan, and he talked about JD, and he's like, we've got all these weapons, and they're like, well, would you go all in on a Russ or a Deshaun? And he was like, all I can say is this team is going to do what it has to do.
And it should.
That scares me.
And and I think that if you want a guy like Deshaun Watson or a guy like Russell Wilson, you know what I mean? You're gonna have to depart with some draft capital over the next few seasons for him. You know what I mean? And the one thing that I think that scares me is that asking for too much.
Yeah.
There's going to be that one team that is going to, oh, well, he's Russell Wilson. You know, let's just depart with our next two number ones and a couple of number twos in the next 2 or 3 drafts for him. For a guy that's 34 years old, for a guy that is about to head in the wrong side of 30, you're going to get maybe maybe 2 good years out of him. And then what?
So one guy that I would not be shocked if he's not on this team next year, and this is for multiple reasons, not just the obvious one, but is Deron Payne. I would not be surprised if he's gone in this offseason. Not just because of the fight or, I don't know if you know about this, but his dad came out on social media and basically bashed the front office and said, get this team a quarterback and all this other stuff.
He's done. That's it. You can't hit teammates and you can't, you know what I mean, bash the organization or have your family members bash the organization, without some type of repercussion. He's done.
Yeah.
Look what happened with Grimes he was on Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
And his wife just started talking crap on Twitter.
Yep.
And it ended up getting him a one-way ticket out of Tampa Bay, and I don't think he's even in the league anymore.
Nope, sure isn't. I mean, it's crazy how that whole because when we drafted Deron Payne, I was like, oh, he's better than Jonathan Allen. He's just not a leader like Jonathan Allen is. He's not that vocal voice in the locker room. I always thought he was more of an athlete, and I thought he was better at stopping the run, and I thought he had a little bit better pass rush skills.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, was I wrong. Because he'll show up for like 1 or 2 big games as a pass rusher a year, and where he'll just come out of nowhere like last year. Last year it was the Tampa game, the playoff game. He came out, had like 2 sacks, got to Brady like, where has this Deron Payne been all year? And then like the rest of the year, he just disappears. And it was the same thing this year. Like, he's a big part of why we're able to stop the run as well as we are, but he can't really rush the passer much. Mm-hmm. And unless it's his 1 or 2 big games a year, and in those 1 or 2 big games, he'll have, 2 sacks. And
he's basically useless in the pass rush.
Yeah, basically. It's why most of the time they take him out and put in Matt Ioannidis. So, but, if we do go after a big name quarterback, honestly, I would love the best case scenario for me, the best realistic case, I guess, would be Deron Payne and a conditional second that can become a first, kind of like the Carson Wentz trade, but throw in Deron Payne as well. That would be best case scenario. I don't quite think that's enough to get a deal done, especially with a Russell Wilson or a Deshaun Watson, but we'll see what happens.
I think pending on his case, and we'll just say hypothetically he is not guilty, I think the Texans, given their history, I think on draft day, they're going to get a deal done. I think they're going to just bite on something lesser. So you might have that chance of getting that type of thing, that best case scenario of sending Payne and a conditional, draft pick to Houston for Deshaun Watson. You might get that because, that's another thing that people don't talk about is that the relationship between him and Texans management is so far deteriorated that even if he comes out of this smelling like a rose, hypothetically, that it's just like, just get me out of here then.
Are you against Deshaun Watson coming to New York?
I'm not against it for the right price.
I seen a story today, uh, and it was them talking about how Deshaun Watson's big reason for wanting to go to Miami was Brian Flores, and that was his reason for wanting to go to Miami. It had nothing to do with personnel or the front office or ownership or anything. It was the head coach.
Mm.
And so since he's gone now, is there going to be any interest at all in going there? And that was like the big story today that I read.
Yeah, it's now. I don't think that's going to happen. If Flores is not there, I don't think Deshaun Watson's going there. You know what I
No.
mean? Even though it would be nice for him, he would fit in that system, especially with Jalen Waddle and and Devontae Parker. You know what I mean? And if they do resign him, Gesicki, but you know what I mean? Like if that's the case, if there's no Brian Flores, he's not going there.
Yeah. Yeah, if I'm Miami, my first step is to re-sign Gesicki, and my second step is to get a head coach and quarterback in there. Not quarterback.
And that shocked the hell out of me when I saw that, when I got that notification yesterday that
Yeah.
Brian Flores was out as Dolphins head coach. I'm like, the guy almost led you to the playoffs last year. This year, he came back from a 1-7 start, got you a winning record. I mean, did he have beef with Stephen Ross? Did he have beef with management? Like, I don't understand this.
And then so you saw the story that came out later then, right?
No, I
It
didn't.
was it's beef between him and Chris Greer, the GM.
Oof.
It's about Tua is what the story is, because Brian Flores, since even when Fitzpatrick was there, Flores wanted Fitzpatrick to be the starting quarterback, and front office said, "No, we've got this young quarterback. You're going to play the young quarterback." That's why there for a couple weeks last year they flip-flopped for like 3 weeks.
Mm.
And because there was like kind of a tug of war in the front office, and so now it's come out that there's a rift between Chris Greer and Brian Flores, and I guess the thought with Brian Flores was, well, he's going to choose me over this GM, who's the owner, Stephen Ross, is going to choose me over Chris Greer because since I got here, I've done nothing but have success, and he's been here since 2000, and from 2000 until the point that I got here, Miami's been horrible.
Yeah, it's a very, very like messed up situation, man.
It's
You know what I mean? Like it's obvious that, and I see it, everyone sees it. Brian Flores sees it. Tua is not the guy. He is not the guy. He hasn't been proven. He hasn't really proven anything. He hasn't had that one game. He hasn't even had any type of moment that says, all right, he's ready to turn the corner.
And that's what we were all afraid of when it came to Alabama quarterbacks. It's the reason we said Mac Jones can't go 3 to San Francisco, because there's always the risk there that it was the weapons that made the quarterback and not the quarterback that made the weapons.
Mm.
Because if you think about it, all the weapons that Tua had there at Alabama, he, from Waddle to Ruggs to Judy to, who am I forgetting? Waddle, Judy, Ruggs, Devontae Smith. That's the one I was forgetting. Devontae Smith. And it was like, well, Mac Jones, he's probably just a game manager that had all these weapons that made him look really good. He's probably like a 3rd-round pick, and he's showing us that we were probably wrong if we thought that.
Oh yes, and you know what? Being with Bill Belichick doesn't hurt either.
Not at all. Not at all. Who are your late round steals?
Talking about a safety that has that Tyrann Mathieu type presence that we can grab in the late round if he's there is Bubba Bolden from Miami. Bubba Bolden, watching this guy play in 4 years, he has that electric presence in the secondary. You know what I mean? He's like that, you know, he's like that Benny Blades type player where he could hit hard and also he could drop back in coverage.
Yep.
So I would, if he is in some mock drafts, he's going in the 5th and 6th round. If I'm the Giants, I would take him, and he would be I will put him in a strong safety position to replace Julius Peppers, because I don't think we're going to re-sign Julius Peppers. As far as on the offensive side of the ball, if we're going to draft Linderbaum, then if he's available in the late rounds, I want Mark Hallenberger. Kid is 6'6", 282 pounds. You know what I mean? He has good chemistry with Linderbaum, you know, and if the Giants get Linderbaum, if Kallenberger is there in the later rounds, you must pick him just because of the chemistry he has with Linderbaum and that Iowa offensive line.
Do you worry about his size?
I don't worry about his size. You know, like, he's not a 300-pounder. I get that.
And he's also 6'6".
Yes. You know, but, you know, like, it's I don't worry. I don't worry about it at all. You know.
Okay. I was just curious.
You know.
Yeah. Well, since you're doing like your favorite alma mater players, since that's what this has turned into, you have a favorite Florida Gator player that's a sleeper? Because I do, and he's a guy nobody talks about.
Florida Gator, like, in the league right now?
No, in a draft eligible one.
Draft eligible.
There's only a couple.
Can't really think of one right now.
So the two big ones are there's Kyer Elam, who's the big corner. He's going to go in the first round or early second probably. But there's him, and then the sleeper I would say is running back Damon Pierce. He's 6 foot, 227 pounds. I mean, I wouldn't mind if Washington's, grabbed him in the 5th or 6th round.
That's not bad. And
No.
You know what? He could be that guy that could, eventually develop into that second running back, that two-headed monster with Antonio Gibson.
Yeah.
Given the patience, if he develops and if Washington has any patience.
Right. What about for defense? Oh, you did defense, didn't you?
Yeah, Bubba Bolden. If not, I did a mock draft earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually did that, like the mock draft, and the edge rusher from Ohio State. I picked him in one of my mock drafts in the late round. See if I could get it up here. I have Tyreek Smith.
Yeah.
I went to Rutgers, Ohio State earlier this year, or earlier last year, and he terrorized that Rutgers offensive line. I think he had like 3 or 4 sacks and a fumble.
Dang.
Even though it is Rutgers, but still.
Yeah. I don't know. The McCourties came from Rutgers.
Oh yeah, they both did.
Yeah, but so did Ray Rice.
Oh yeah.
It goes both ways with it. Well, that is the end of the list. That is the end of the notes. So that's going to do it for me here on the Burgundy Boss podcast. You can go ahead and plug your channel there, 330.
All right. We have I have a new episode coming up tomorrow afternoon. be on the lookout for it on Spotify and your favorite podcast providers.
Right on. And you can find us here on the Burgundy Boss podcast on YouTube. You can find us on Twitter at Burgundy Boss.